Welcome to today's lesson, Preventing Legionella in Hot Water Systems. Click the Start button to begin. In this course, you will learn how to understand the history of Legionella and potential dangers if left untreated, how Legionella develops in hot water distribution systems, identify ways to kill Legionella using current treatment methods, and how to design hot water systems that discourage the growth of Legionella. Please reserve at least the next 40 minutes of your time to complete this course. Prior to starting this course, we recommend you complete the Institutional Hot Water Systems Introduction and Advanced courses and the Institutional Water Temperature Controls course on Armstrong University. In this first section, we'll learn what is Legionella and the dangers associated with it. Click play to continue. Legionella is a type of bacteria found worldwide in all bodies of water, such as lakes, rivers, and underground reservoirs. It has even been found in moist soils. At least 39 species have been identified, and within that, more than 60 serogroups have been identified. Some serogroups have several subtypes. It is a very complex type of bacteria. We have unintentionally created even more places for it to colonize in artificial aquatic environments, such as cooling towers, water systems in hotels, homes, ships, and factories, respiratory therapy equipment, fountains, misting devices, and spa pools, just to name a few. Legionella pneumophila is the most common species of all. There are 15 serogroups, and serogroup 1 has at least 50 subtypes. It is the primary cause of 85 to 90% of all Legionella pneumophila cases. Legionellosis is a collection of infections that emerged in the second half of the 20th century and are caused by Legionella pneumophila and related Legionella bacteria. It is a multi-system illness with a deadly type of pneumonia. An outbreak of this disease in Philadelphia in 1976 was first identified at the Bellevue Stratford Hotel, largely among people attending a national convention of the American Legion, led to the name the press called Legionnaires Disease. Bacteria was discharged from the contaminated cooling tower on an adjacent building. The air handling unit on the Bellevue Stratford brought the airborne bacteria from the cooling tower into the convention center. The illness struck 221 people. 72 of those people did not attend the convention, but were walking by on the street. Of those 221 people, 34 died. Subsequently, the bacterium causing the illness was named Legionella pneumophila, and the name of the illness was changed to Legionellosis. Out of over 314 million people in the United States, there are 2.4 million cases of pneumonia each year. 10,000 to 100,000 are cases of Legionnaires Disease. Only 1,000 to 3,000 are reported to the Center for Disease Control, CDC, annually. Each year, 8,000 to 18,000 people in the United States alone are hospitalized with Legionnaires Disease. Legionnaires' disease is usually treated successfully with antibiotics, but can sometimes be fatal. People get Legionnaires' disease when they breathe in a mist or vapor, small droplets of water in the air, that has been contaminated with Legionella bacteria. The risk of infection is based on two key factors: the number of bacteria reaching the body, megadoses, and the resistance of the individual. The severity of Legionellosis varies from mild febrile illness, Pontiac fever, to a potentially fatal form of pneumonia, Legionnaires' disease, that can affect anyone, but principally affects those who are susceptible due to age, illness such as chronic lung disease, and the immunosuppression and transplant patients, or other risk factors such as smoking. There are no vaccines that can prevent Legionellosis. Persons at increased risk of infection may choose to avoid high-risk exposures, such as being in or near a hot tub. Some people can take a higher exposure to Legionella bacteria because their resistance levels are high. Here are some recent statistics about Legionnaires' disease. The incubation period is 2 to 10 days. 75% of the cases occur in the community, out and about, 25% nosocomial, exposure within a hospital. Initial symptoms are nonspecific: loss of energy, headache, nausea, aching muscles, high fever, and chest pains. Legionnaires' disease can have symptoms like many other forms of pneumonia, so it can be hard to diagnose. Underlying disease and advanced age not only increase the risk of contracting Legionnaires' disease, but also the risk of dying from it. And finally, a death rate of 40% for cases acquired during a hospital stay, nosocomial cases, which are down from 46%, and a death rate of 20% for community-acquired cases, which are down from 26%. Some outbreaks have claimed more than 50%. So how does someone contract Legionnaires' disease? In all cases, there is a contaminated source of some kind. In this example, a decorative fountain. The bacteria becomes airborne in the mist through evaporation and is transmitted from the source to the susceptible host through inhalation, where their lungs become the next point of colonization for the bacteria. Most cases of Legionnaires' disease go undetected due to lack of testing. Other cases are missed because test procedures are not sensitive enough. If tests are not done to determine if the disease is LD, then it's not reported to the CDC. It is happening a lot more than we realize. It's just not getting reported. Healthy people who contract it may be treated with antibiotics such as erythromycin, and the patient gets better, so further testing is never done to determine if the pneumonia-like symptoms were actually LD. Deaths from undetected cases are classified as pneumonia with an unknown cause. Legionnaires' disease is considered an environmental disease. It cannot be transmitted between individuals or be caught by drinking water with the bacteria in it. Legionella is most dangerous when it becomes airborne in water vapor and is inhaled, where it can begin to colonize in lung tissue and develop into Legionellosis. Most cases occur 1 or 2 cases at a time and not an outbreak. Sporadic cases are generally not reported to the public. The overall opinion is that the public doesn't see the problem as a threat. If a person is at risk, they can potentially contract Legionellosis just from walking through a hospital. Many governments around the world have established guidelines to protect their citizens against the dangers of Legionella. Health and safety organizations in a number of countries have established guidelines for preventive maintenance and testing of water in domestic hot water systems for the Legionella bacteria. These organizations include the Center for Disease Control, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You can access the guidelines provided by the organizations from the Links menu. Let's now look at the potentially dangerous condition that allow the growth of Legionella in hot water systems. Click play to continue. A domestic hot water system is at risk for Legionella incubation if any of the following have occurred: dead leg pipe runs or takeoffs from the central recirculating hot water loop to remote points of use, individual showers and lavatories which have infrequent operation for extended periods, water heaters with set points below 140 degrees Fahrenheit or water temperatures which fall below 122 degrees Fahrenheit at any point in the circuit before draw-off, an aquastat to shut off the recirculation pump to either save energy or as a safety measure if the recirculating hot water system exceeds a preset temperature, and tank-type heaters, which offer conditions for the bacteria to colonize and multiply within the system. This is a typical storage tank feedback unit used in some institutional hot water systems. As water is circulated through the system and through the water heater, colder water is along the bottom of the tank around a heating bundle. It becomes a common bacterial amplifier for Legionella because of the temperature stratification that can occur within the tank. Scale that builds up on the heat exchanger over time falls off and collects in the bottom of the tank, creating a stagnant area where the water cannot be recirculated. Food sources such as algae and amoeba come in from the city water supply. Silt and other materials in suspension within the water also come in with the city water. The bottom of these tanks provide the ideal conditions in which Legionella likes to colonize, including the right temperatures, stagnant conditions, and a food source. Where does Legionella come from? It may exist in poorly treated water. Typically, city water is treated with small amounts of chlorine. Poorly designed plumbing systems. This is the prime location where Legionella can colonize and develop megadoses of the bacteria, which may then potentially be exposed to people. And poorly treated plumbing systems. Where does the Legionella bacteria live? It will multiply the fastest in warm water within bacterial amplifiers where there is no movement of water or a stratification of temperatures in the water, such as within the biofilm of plumbing systems. Typical bacterial amplifiers include the following and are listed in order from the most potential to the least. Domestic hot water systems, cooling towers, evaporative condensers on large air conditioning systems, such as those commonly found in hotels and large office buildings, respiratory care equipment, showers and faucets, whirlpool baths, hot tubs, humidifiers, evaporative type, not steam humidifiers that use purified water, decorative fountains, grocery store misters. Stores should be using purified or RO water rather than tap water, and potting soil. Legionella lives in the bacterial amplifiers, particularly in the biofilm within plumbing systems. Once on the surface, these organisms secrete a slimy or glue-like substance, polysaccharides, that allows them to securely anchor themselves on the surface and form connections with other organisms. After attachment, these organisms divide and expand into multicellular communities or microcolonies and create a protective barrier commonly known as a biofilm. Algae and amoeba in the biofilm are a food source for Legionella. A buildup of Legionella bacteria can exist inside the biofilm of a water heater storage device where it typically colonizes. The biofilm essentially protects the Legionella. If the hot water system experiences water hammer due to hydraulic shock, dangerous levels of Legionella bacteria could potentially be released from the biofilm. The key to preventing Legionellosis is maintenance of the water systems in which Legionella grow. Important preventive measures to help reduce the risk of Legionella include the following: designing, operating, and maintaining water systems to minimize the growth of waterborne pathogens, minimizing water stagnation, avoiding water temperatures optimum for growth, eliminating scale, sediment, and biofilm, minimizing food sources, reducing available storage tanks, which are bacterial amplifiers. If the facility has a high risk for Legionella, consider more costly measures to fix the system and reduce the risk, and documenting all preventive measures to show you took responsible action. Guidelines for appropriate water temperatures and chemical treatment of water for Legionellosis prevention can be found in ASHRAE Guideline 12-2000, which is available online. There are two ways to approach the management of Legionella issues in a facility: reactive and proactive. With the reactive approach, don't take preventive measures or test water unless disease is identified. If disease is identified, test water systems for Legionella. If the source of contamination is identified, disinfect it. And do follow-up testing for about 6 months. With the proactive approach, operate and maintain water systems to minimize Legionella. Test the water to see if preventive measures are working, and disinfect systems if necessary. The CDC does not recommend regular water sampling. If you test for Legionella, you're more likely going to find it. Negative results may create a false sense of security, and positive results may create a false alarm. Sampling results, though sometimes inconclusive, may provide life-saving information. Weigh the value of information from samplings provided against the cost, and weigh the risk of misleading sampling against the risk of not sampling. You should also consider risk management. Do not use sampling as a substitute for preventive measures. Now we'll review water temperatures and the ranges that are most effective for controlling Legionella. Click play to continue. This chart shows a breakdown of temperature recommendations for domestic hot water systems recommended by health and safety organizations around the world, as well as examples from different countries. Storing or recirculating water at higher temperatures becomes more attractive. Legionella can survive in the biofilm at the higher temps because the bacteria is somewhat protected by the biofilm. Click play when you are ready to continue. What are the downsides that might occur with thermal treatments? This chart shows the time it takes to receive a first-degree burn based on temperature. Scald hazard. If the temperature is raised to kill the bacteria, it raises the risk of scalding. Bacterial dangers. If the temperature is lowered to prevent scalding, it creates a bacterial hazard. In an effort to control Legionella, there are a number of mixing valve strategies to consider for domestic hot water systems. A 140° Fahrenheit tank to 140° Fahrenheit taps. A 140° Fahrenheit tank to a master mixing valve, MMV, to 122° Fahrenheit taps. A 140° Fahrenheit tank to an anti-scald shower or faucet valve, ASV, at 110° Fahrenheit taps. A 140° Fahrenheit tank to a MMV to ASV at 110° Fahrenheit taps. Additional guidelines can be found in the OSHA Technical Manual, Section 3, Chapter 7, from the Links menu. Another way to control water temperature at the point of use is with Armstrong's point-of-use Sense line of water temperature control products. It is a digital device that safely delivers blended water to the user and is also programmed to handle thermal flush treatments from generation all the way through point of use. Armstrong's Sense system is a series of 4 individual digital mixing valves designed for installation at the point of use to allow user control of water temperature and flow. The range has been designed to offer individual lavatory, individual shower, individual bath fill, and individual bath-shower combination digital flow and temperature control, primarily in healthcare installations where user safety and Legionella risk reduction is paramount. To learn more about Sense, see the Links menu. Next, we'll look at various treatment methods currently used around the world to destroy Legionella. Click play to continue. There are several main treatment methods for Legionella currently in use. Thermal treatments are done with heat. Biocide treatments mean something is added to the water. Armstrong International has always encouraged thermal treatments. These treatment methods include the following: Superheat and Flush, thermal; feed-forward instantaneous water heaters, thermal; Hyperchlorination, biocide; Ultraviolet Rays, biocide; Ozone, biocide; Chlorine Dioxide, biocide; Copper, silver, ionization, biocide. Typically, the biocide negatives outweigh the positives. There are potential health risks, they are corrosive to piping, and most of them don't kill the bacteria in the biofilm. In most cases, if not monitored regularly, a treatment method may not do as much good to reduce the risk of Legionella. For instance, with copper-silver ionization, an operator must monitor the balance of the copper and silver ion levels. If these components get out of balance, it will not kill the Legionella. And if the ions accumulate at higher levels, then they pose a health risk to end users. Superheat and flush was the first method used for Legionella control in hot water systems. It can be used on an emergency basis during an outbreak or utilized intermittently to control or suppress widespread contamination of the system. Unfortunately, pneumophila can reestablish itself in a hot water system within a month or two, so disinfection is only temporary. This method is sometimes used in conjunction with continuous hyperchlorination. Advantages of superheat and flush include it's inexpensive, it has proven effective irrespective of water quality, it's non-aggressive to pipework and fittings, it's non-toxic consumable, and no professionally qualified personnel are required to administer treatment. Disadvantages are there is a potential scald risk, it's not effective unless the sterilization temperature is achieved in the biofilm, and dead legs may not permit adequate flushing. Feed-forward instantaneous water heaters, such as Armstrong's Flow-Right Temp, have also been employed to reduce Legionella. These devices eliminate the problem of thermal stratification in conventional hot water heaters, but they do not eliminate Legionella in biofilms on the pipe walls, in shower heads, etc. The closer they are to the outlet, the more effective they are in killing the bacteria. Armstrong's position has always been to use thermal treatments, including superheat and flush with water heated to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and then circulated through the system to kill Legionella. Advantages of a thermal treatment using feed-forward instantaneous water heaters are it sterilizes water in the heat exchanger as a function of making hot water. It's non-aggressive to pipework and fittings. It's non-toxic and consumable. And there is no scald risk. The disadvantages are water, which bypasses the heat exchanger, is not sanitized, and it does not kill bacteria in the system biofilm. Hyperchlorination is usually carried out in two ways: shock hyperchlorination or continuous hyperchlorination. Shock hyperchlorination involves elevating the chlorine dosage to obtain a specified high level throughout the water system and holding it there for a sufficient time to kill the Legionella. Water is then drained and the chlorine level reduced. Continuous hyperchlorination entails elevating the chlorine levels on a sustained basis well above the levels normally maintained in a water system, but not as high as in shock chlorination. This method is frequently combined with the superheat and flush method. Advantages of hyperchlorination are it's inexpensive and it effectively kills bacteria in the water. The disadvantages are it uses hazardous material which requires trained operators. The chemical is a carcinogen. It's aggressive to pipework and fittings, and it does not kill bacteria in the system biofilm. UV light has been used for Legionella control, particularly in recirculating hot water systems, to provide continuing exposure. UV treatment for Legionella is usually carried out in combination with filtration to assure water clarity so that UV exposure will not be reduced. Because there can be regrowth of Legionella in a pipe following exposure to UV, it is most effective when installed near faucet or shower outlets. UV is sometimes used in combination with routine chlorination to suppress or prevent regrowth. Advantages of UV treatment include it's harmless and non-toxic, and it effectively kills bacteria in the water. Disadvantages are it's expensive. It's only effective at the point of treatment. There are high maintenance costs, lamps wear out, are fragile, and need replacement. Microorganisms can become resistant and repair UV damage. And it does not kill the bacteria in the system biofilm. Ozone is a strong oxidizing gas formed by the combination of three oxygen molecules, usually by controlled electrical discharge across a dielectric barrier using air or, for improved efficiency, oxygen feed gas, which has been preconditioned to remove impurities and traces of water. The result is that a proportion of the feed gas is converted into ozone. For large industrial ozone plants, using oxygen feed gas, the conversion may be greater than 10%. Typically, for air-supplied ozone generators, the conversion rate is 3% and 6% for oxygen-fed units. Once produced, the ozone can then be used for oxidation, disinfection processes, as not only is it a stronger oxidant than chlorine, bromine, or chlorine dioxide, the byproducts of aqueous disinfection processes are oxygen and, in some cases, oxygenated species. The advantage of ozone treatments is that it effectively kills bacteria in the water. The disadvantages are it's difficult to maintain effective levels of ozone in the system as it decomposes into water. High ozone levels may damage pipe. It has not been tested in facilities. Its use would be pioneering, and it does not kill the bacteria in the system biofilm. Chlorine dioxide has been used successfully in Europe since the mid-1990s to control Legionella in institutional water systems. Chlorine dioxide is effective against many microorganisms and is more potent than many other disinfection methods over a short contact time. Advantages are it effectively kills bacteria in the water, and early indications show potential of killing bacteria in the biofilm as well as removal of the biofilm. Disadvantages are it's expensive. Concentration levels required often exceed health standards, which is a health and safety issue. It's aggressive to copper piping. It needs special storage since it is a hazardous material. The chemical, potassium, chlorate, and hydrochloric acid, is unstable and may explode, and professionally qualified personnel are required. Copper-silver ion disinfection for Legionella control in institutional water supplies continues to gain acceptance. It is generally installed only on the hot water system prior to heating. The cold water piping depends on the chlorine residual in the service line. There appears to be a synergistic effect when copper-silver ion and conventional chlorination are used together. Advantages include the use of sacrificial anodes to produce ions that kill Legionella bacteria in the water, and ions also kill bacteria in the system biofilm. Disadvantages are it's expensive. Constant monitoring of ion levels is required. Sacrificial anodes need regular replacement. Ion levels can become toxic if they accumulate, and professionally qualified personnel are required. In general, when treating a domestic hot water system for Legionella, be sure to keep in mind the following best practices. There are multiple ways to address Legionella, but temperature is the most successful and assured method to fight it. Treat the water heater first and then out through the system. Properly moving water assures distribution of the treatment. Distribute treatment throughout the system, whether using thermal or biocide treatments. Flush all treatment completely through the system, particularly through point-of-use faucets, which can harbor the bacteria. Serpentine systems are typically not balanced, which allows good movement of water within the distribution system. In a grid system, which requires balance valves, a well-maintained and properly balanced distribution system assures water flow at all points within the system. If there are takeoff pipe legs that are not properly balanced, this will create stagnant dead legs, where the risk of Legionella is higher in the biofilm. Water should be distributed at 140 degrees Fahrenheit and returned to the heat exchanger above 131 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures should be maintained 24/7. Even at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, There is still no guarantee that all parts of the hot water system can be maintained at these temperatures. In many locations, temperatures at the water heaters are elevated much higher in an attempt to keep temperatures in all parts of the system high enough. This need to increase temperatures increases the risk of scalding of individuals. In Europe, distribution systems are constantly recirculated at higher temperatures, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, throughout the building to reach all points of use where a mixing valve blends it down to a safe temperature. Here are important guidelines to follow when designing and maintaining domestic hot water systems. Try to minimize dead legs, where Legionella can grow in the biofilm. Not all dead legs can be avoided. On the generation side, avoid any stored water in the water heater. The more stored water, the greater the risk of the water becoming stagnant and stratified with temperatures, which is a breeding ground for Legionella. Stagnant water in distribution pipes presents a risk of developing Legionella. Keep recirculation pumps running and well maintained. Recirculation pumps should also be excluded from energy conservation measures. It's critical to keep water circulating and turbulent to reduce the risk of Legionella colonization. Water for people washing heated in the loop to prevent Legionella cannot be used at that temperature directly by consumers. It would need to be blended down to a safe user temperature. By completing this course, you should now understand the history of Legionella and potential dangers if left untreated. Know how Legionella develops in hot water distribution systems. Be able to identify ways to kill Legionella using current treatment methods. And know how to design hot water systems that discourage the growth of Legionella. Thanks for completing Armstrong's Preventing Legionella in Hot Water Systems training course. We encourage you to continue expanding your knowledge by completing other courses on Armstrong University. Armstrong provides intelligent system solutions that improve utility performance, lower energy consumption, and reduce environmental emissions while providing an enjoyable experience. You may now close this course by pressing the Exit button in the upper right corner of the screen and then choosing Exit Now from the drop-down menu to return to Armstrong University. Don't click the X to close your browser window.